Sport Fishing on the Fly is brought to you by Maui Jim Sunglasses. First Tellurium Corp., the future of mining. And Hardy Rods and Reels.
Good day everyone, and welcome to another segment on the bench. Today I'm going to tie up a little Mayfly emerger. This is a simple little fly to tie. The selection of materials and how I tie this fly is critical in my opinion. It's a buggy little rascal. It's not real neat to look at, but it sure fishes well. Important with these nymphs when you're fishing or tying emergers, make sure you don't put any bead heads on there or any lead on them. The hook will ride about this angle in the water, and that's the right angle for these bugs to come and emerge. So that's critical. You don't want them hanging straight down or acting like a jig or something. So a lot of times you see fish working on the surface film and so forth. You'll be looking for dry flies to imitate the naturals. This is a good choice. Just fish an emerger just in the film or just below the film. If you see mayflies popping off, not a lot of fish moving, you can go a little deeper in the water column. Clear sink tips work well for this fly too, so something you want to keep in mind. Okay, let's go over the materials we need to tie the fly. I'm going to be using a Daiichi 1710 size 14 nymph hook. I'll be using some 8/0 tan thread to tie with. I'll be using some Semperfli fine wire, bright silver for the ribbing. And the body, we're going to be using some Hare's Ear Plus. There's a little Haretron in there, so that gives it a nice effect in the water. The thorax, I'm going to be using some Squirrel dub, a little spikier. And this also has a little Haretron in it. The tailing material, I'm going to use some feathers here from a Partridge skin. And the wing case is going to be some Midge Krystal Flash and pearl. Okay, so let's get a hook in the vise. These are easy to tie. We want to make sure they're nice and buggy. I get the effect in the water I'm looking for. I'm going to address the shank of the hook. Okay, and then I'll come in here. I need some nice little partridge hackle. We'll grab something here with some nice square tips. Strong tips on them, nice and straight. Tie that in gap length. Too long, that's about almost dry fly tailing material right there. A little bit shorter. Make sure your tail's got a natural curve. Make sure it's pointing up. It'll ride more. It won't not ride straighter in the current. Then I'm going to come in with some of my silver wire. Tie that along the shank. Get a half hitch on here. Then we'll bring on our Hare's Ear Plus. This really imitates the gills on these flies quite nicely. Get a nice light dubbing on here. Do it on by hand. You're going to pick it out anyway, so that'll come. But you see the spiky, that's a little bit of Haretron coming out, poking out there, and that really gives it a nice effect. That's if you can get the Haretron with a little bit of that Haretron in there, and we'll get a rib. We want that rib effect. I'm going to leave the wire on there. I'm going to use that for a dubbing brush for the thorax. So what I'll do here is just brush these fibers back, bring them back a little bit. That looks good in the water. Very nice. So you can still see the wire kind of poking through there, gives a little segmentation, buggy, and when that's wet, it looks really good. Simple little fly to tie. I like flies that are easy to tie and catch fish, so we'll come in here with some of our Midge Krystal Flash, tied along here where we're going to have our thorax, about a third back. And then I have my squirrel dub. And I'm just going to lay that on in between my thread and my wire. With a little dubbing loop. Now if you don't have a rotary vise like that, just make yourself a little dubbing loop. Now I'm going to brush this out. It's a little bit thick. I want to thin it out. See, there's some Haretron I'm pulling that out of there. I don't want too long of fibers involved. But it says it's straight squirrel, but it's got Haretron in it. I can see it. So then we'll start right at the back here. And as I'm going forward, I'll make sure I pull my fibers back. Bring them back as we go, and then it looks more natural. Get behind the eye, and I'll just tie my loop off. Cut it off. And then we'll grab our wing case at the top. And you can tie it off right there like that if you want. I also like to give it a little more effect, and I'll tie it back over itself. And just give it a little bit of a haircut, and those tips look pretty nice in the water too. It's got a good effect. It just kind of catches their eye. Then we'll come in with our whip finisher. Finish that off and put a little head cement on there so it doesn't fall apart. Then I want to get my my brush again. You always want to make sure you're picking your dubbing out on these nymphs. Something that's way too long. Clean that up and preen these fibers back. Make it look like legs. Like it's wanting it to see there's long fibers that don't belong there. I'll just nip them off, but I leave those little tips pointing out like that. It looks really good. And it's a nice buggy little fella. It'll work very well in the water column for you when it's coming up at that angle, and make sure you can change your sizes and colors to match any of your mayflies. And there's a good one for you. So we appreciate you catching us again here for another segment on the bench, and catch you again real soon.